Hello and welcome to the Shepheard-Walwyn podcast series. My name is Jonathan Brown. Shepheard-Walwyn is a campaigning book publisher based in London, England. Our purpose is to uncover and promote new ideas to society's oldest problems. And whilst our specialty is ethical economics, something Anthony Werner, our driving force for over 40 years, has pioneered, we have branched out over the years to other related areas such as the environment and the lives and works of society's change agents. These podcasts promote ideas we're convinced can actually help us build a better society for all of us. So have a listen and be sure to share with your friends if you like them, but also tell us what you think. These are debates we all need to be part of. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Welcome to the final instalment of the Dom Frisby interview. Now in this conversation we discuss the challenges facing government around the world and the rise of what some call the sovereign individual, also known as a digital nomad. We consider the implications of increasing government spending with reduced tax revenues. We look at what countries can do to maintain or even increase tax revenue when those who generate the most income can move between borders seemingly at will. And this then leads us into a discussion of cryptocurrencies. Now Dom was an early adopter in the space, writing what I believe is the first book on Bitcoin with a major publisher. And in spite of this, we find out why Dom isn't worth hundreds of millions of dollars today, even though his investments should be. It's an absolute heartbreaker. But we then finish on a high note on looking at what Dom is working on now. We hope you enjoy it. You talk in your book as well, especially Daylight Robbery, about how currently governments around the world have still got a choice to introduce a lower tax regime, more freedom, innovation, attract innovators into their countries. But you talk about the rise of the gig economy of freelancers, the rise of Bitcoin, and the way in which people are now increasingly able to act the way that big companies have been acting for the last 20 or so years, of receiving payment wherever they get taxed the least, and then leaving it offshore or moving it back in, as and when it suits them. And you talk about the coming crisis of the government's increased spending more and more money, and yet tax receipts going down because individuals have got more freedom to move around the world and to be paid in different currencies, some of which are untraceable.
Yeah, this is a huge dynamic. One of the things that frustrates so many of us is that there are two sets of rules. And you have these globalized companies like Google and Facebook and Starbucks and whoever it is. And because they're able to base themselves in multiple jurisdictions around the world, they are able to put their IP in one place, their copyright in another, their corporate headquarters somewhere else, and they all pay each other for the use of the IP and so on and so forth. And they can basically decide how much tax they want to pay. And I think the year before last, I paid more tax than Facebook in the UK. Facebook just, and I mean, a lot of those tech companies are deliberately not profitable, so that they don't have to pay taxes. They call tax leakage. And so that's fine. They're doing what they're doing. But then you get an ordinary worker like me in my country, and I'm paying more taxes than a $500 billion international corporation. And you're like, how is that right? It's obviously slightly different to that because there's all sorts of taxes that Facebook pays along the way, and its workers pay taxes and so on. But it's globalization that has enabled those corporations to do what they do. Well, that same force of globalization is coming to workers. The fastest growing worker in the world, the fastest growing, is the freelancer. But until COVID struck, it was specifically the digital nomad. And the workforce in 2035 is going to be the population in 2035 is going to be 9 billion globally, of which 6 billion will be workers, of which roughly half will be freelancers of some kind. And when you're a freelancer, you don't pay a freelancer doing the same job as a guy in regular employment would typically pay lower levels of tax because he finds more stuff to write off and so on. Somebody in regular employment has his tax deducted at source. Freelancers, there's all sorts of scope for non-compliance, whether deliberate or otherwise. And all the studies have shown that a freelancer doing the same job will result in less money to the government. But people who go freelance all enjoy much higher levels of work satisfaction, because they work when they like, on their terms, flexible working hours, blah, blah, blah. They feel like they have more freedom and autonomy. And so this might be anything from an Uber driver in the gig economy right through to I don't know, some CEO of a multinational corporation who bases himself in the Channel Islands or something. They're all different types of gig workers. And it's thought that by now, factoring that roughly 50% of government revenue worldwide derives from income taxes, but about one half of the workforce, probably by the end of this decade, will be gig workers in the freelance economy one way or another. And of that, 1/3 will be digital nomads. So, for example, like I'm just starting this new Substack channel, and I'm very excited about this Substack channel, and all your listeners should definitely subscribe, where you'll get all my wonderful investment advice. Let's just say I got 10,000 subscribers to my Substack channel, or no, let's say they pay £100 a year. I got £1 million. So I'm going to have to pay 40% of that to the government to do my job, which is to write a newsletter on Substack. Now, let's just say, okay, I'm going to go and live in Panama. I want to go and live on the beach, and I write my newsletter on the beach. And I'm going to become, if you leave the UK after like a year or something, as long as I spend less than 90 days here or whatever the number is, I can become a resident of Panama. I'm no longer liable to pay income tax here in the UK. And so suddenly that £1 million of earnings will be tax-free. Or I have to pay tax in the country that I'm living. And more individuals are working in the gig economy. And they're going, do you know what? I don't need to be in London anymore. And I don't need to pay London house prices. I can go and do whatever I do, my web design or my graphic design or my trading or my newsletter or whatever it is. I can go and do that in France. Or actually, I hear Lisbon's got all sorts of things in place to attract workers. So I'm going to go and live in Lisbon and pay Lisbon taxes. And Lisbon's hot, it's really nice. Then you go to Lisbon, then you're in Lisbon for 6 months. Yeah, it's cool. I've done Lisbon now. I'm going to go to Chiang Mai. And so you go to Chiang Mai, and there's just a huge international community of digital nomads, people who can do what they do from anywhere in the world. And so they go anywhere in the world. And particularly when they're young, they want to travel, same as I did. I said at the beginning, when I was in my 20s, I wanted to travel. And so they travel. Now, COVID's obviously made it slightly harder than it was, but it's still there. And there's all sorts of Facebook and social networking groups for these people, and they all find out where the best rent is and where the best tax is. And there's a city in China that's actually designing itself to attract digital nomads. And it's the fastest growing workforce in the world. And it is not clear to whom they pay taxes if they are not specifically domiciled anywhere. And a lot of them, there's just so much scope for non-compliance because the tax systems are so antiquated. In many cases, even if people are trying to be compliant, they can't because the tax laws aren't clear. Many of them think, well, if I'm from the UK and I don't live in the UK, why should I pay tax to the UK? Because I don't use UK education, I don't use the healthcare, I don't use any of the services. And do you know what? I was sick of the UK anyway. That's why I left. So I don't want to fund it with my taxes. A lot of digital nomads will have that same thought process. And it's not just Europeans or North Americans, it's Asians and Africans and South Americans. You know, there's migrant workers from everywhere. And this huge migrant workforce will be harder to collect income tax from in the way that it is currently collected. And that is a huge dynamic. One of the reasons government have been able to grow so big is because income tax has been easy to collect because it collects it at source. It makes it the responsibility of the employing company to collect that tax. But when there is no one employing company, digital nomads are working everywhere for multiple different things, the collection of income tax will be much harder. And just as government is ratcheting up its spending, another dynamic going on is that income taxes are going to be harder to collect. And you're going to get this two-tier global economy, which was described by William Rees-Mogg, Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad, in his book, The Sovereign Individual, of two types of individual, one who is trapped in the physical economy in their country of birth, and the other sovereign individual who can go anywhere and do anything. And I promise you, no government leader is thinking, actually, we need to redesign our tax systems to accommodate this new globalized workforce. But the same possibilities of globalization that allow for Google and Facebook and Starbucks to pay low levels of tax is going to apply to ordinary workers as well. And your people go, oh, well, when you have a family, you settle down in one country. Well, the evidence is that, funnily enough, people don't. They carry on traveling. And it seems bizarre, but they do. And in any case, many families will settle down in places where they pay very little tax. So even that dynamic is at play. And you'll have people who have multiple houses. They'll have a house in, they'll have one house in Costa Rica, and they'll have another house in Thailand, and they'll have another house in Lisbon or wherever it is. And they just, as they earn more money, because they're paying fewer taxes or lower taxes, they'll have more properties, and they'll just flip between those countries. There's even a thing, WeWork, the organization WeWork. Yeah. I was listening to a presentation another day so WeWork has offices in cities all around the world. And if you're a member of WeWork, you can work in any of those offices. That's basically, I think, how WeWork works. Is that correct?
I think so.
I think so.
You can certainly get rights to go to the office. It's certainly easier for you to do that.
So there's now a thing called WeWork, but for schools. So when you're educating your kids, if you happen to be in Cartagena, you go to the WeWork in Cartagena, the WeWork school in Cartagena, and you educate your kids there. And if you've now moved to Chiang Mai, well, you do the WeWork in Chiang Mai. And so again, that's just doing, all these new businesses will cater for the digital nomad, and it's going to have a huge impact on government incomes.
And when I look at your career and your interest as well, so financially, I mean, you look at your expertise in metals, and also as it moved in Bitcoin, as far as I'm aware, I think, did you not write the first book on Bitcoin that was from a major publisher?
I did, 2013, 2014. That's another thing. This international workforce of digital nomads, they all use cryptocurrencies, which are, if you're using government money, you can regulate, tax and control it. Regulating cryptocurrencies and taxing it is a much harder thing, and it all has to happen after the event, and it relies on the honesty of the person submitting their tax returns, there's much more scope for non-compliance than there is for taxes that are deducted at source.
And I think that so on your new Substack channel, then, are you going to be integrating your insights in gold and Bitcoin and other stuff on giving investment advice?
Yeah, I'm going to do at least one report every month for paid subscribers with an investment recommendation, and it will always be something that I'm investing in myself, and there'll be lots of free content, to entertain and to interest and stuff, which is, some of that content will be available elsewhere, but the paid one will be specific investment recommendations, and that's why it's paid for, because you'll be able to make money out of it, and then hopefully the money you make out of it will more than justify the cost of the subscription.
And so what's your current perspective on cryptocurrencies?
Well, it's the future. It's inevitable. Technology is destiny. Money has always been defined by technology. It's also the Wild West. I look at these new crypto coins, and people are making 100 times their money in a year, and I'm like, how did you find that coin? It's a full-time job keeping track of it, but I believe that everyone should have some exposure to it. Even if it's just 5% of their portfolio in Bitcoin, whatever it is, because I mean, how much bigger can Bitcoin get from, where are we now, $40,000 a coin? You just think, well, but relative to gold, it's still tiny, and there's a scalability to the digital economy. But on the other hand, tech is, after the gains of the last 10 years, tech's having a bit of a pullback. So I sort of describe 4 phases to Bitcoin. It goes through these 4 phases. It goes through quiet accumulation, massive bull market and blow off top, horrible correction, and frustrating consolidation. And then it goes from frustrating consolidation back into quiet accumulation. And at the moment, I think we're in one of those frustrating consolidation phases. But the potential of the space is huge, and I will be making lots of crypto investment recommendations, but I'll try and make them as low risk as I possibly can, because, you know, while you can make a lot of money, you can lose a lot of money as well.
And I know, at the risk of reactivating old trauma, you actually were early invested into Bitcoin, and yet you got hacked and you had it stolen.
But yeah, I got hacked. When was it? 2014, and I didn't think. Anyways, I had all my Bitcoin stolen in 2014. It was pretty harsh coming. I'm by no means alone. It's happened to so many people, and it's really, really hard to deal with, because, you know, I'd be worth hundreds of millions now.
Amazing.
I'm all right. You know, I'm comfortably off, but I'm not worth hundreds of millions, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was listening to you say one time you wanted to put on a show in the West End, and that would have been a click of your fingers kind of thing. And
yeah, exactly. But that show is coming. We've made it, but we haven't made it in West End form. We've done an audio version of it, and it's like within the next month or two, it's coming out, and it's going to be the most amazing audio experience you ever have in your life. I have realized that particular dream, and I'm very proud of myself for having done that.
That's amazing. What's it about? Can you tell us?
It's about Vackies. It's about Vackies in World War II. It's a musical about Vackies in World War II. My dad was evacuated from London to Cornwall in World War II, and it's about the story of his evacuation. And it is the best thing you will ever hear. It's going to be even better than The Sound of Music. Sound of Music's regarded as the best musical ever, but this is better.
So going back to on the Bitcoin stuff, I think that one of the things that our listeners will be particularly interested in is your insights into security, but also as well is that how to manage the risk and acknowledge that it is an amazing space, and you can, you know, if you can go up to, I mean, it's, you know, Bitcoin's thing, you can shoot up and then drop 80% and then come back again and deal with the emotional swings, which I think from your experience of being in the space for nearly 10 years now, I think you've certainly got the scars to say, hang on a second, let's take a chill pill on that.
Don't use leverage. Don't use leverage. There's a short answer to that one. Don't use leverage.
Okay, so Dom, if you send us a link to the Substack, we can put that in the show notes. If there's anything else you can do, I'll also put a link into the Adam Smith show, because I think that's it really is worth a fantastic watch, and it gives a lot of your ideas of what the society that you're trying to promote.
Yeah.
And so we'll
Jonathan, I'd like to thank you, because you've just you've read some of my books, or all of my books, and watched my films and come to my shows. It's really good to be interviewed by somebody who knows your stuff as well as that. And so I'm very grateful to you for all the prep that you've done, and also for the enthusiasm that you've shown about what I do. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome, mate. It's certainly worth it. It's a fabulous, unfortunately, one of those things where you're getting to reading your stuff, and then you think, oh, blimey, I really do need to read that now, and I need to read this as well and stuff. So I think I will certainly direct people to your Substack, because I think there could be some great opportunities there for learning what you've learning your insights. So Dom, thanks so much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this series of podcasts with Dom Frisby. Now be sure to check out the other links in the show notes. Dom's material on Amazon, his free YouTube channel, also his comedy, which is well worth a listen and a watch. But also check out his new subscription service on gold, crypto and other investment ideas. So until next time, keep thinking. Thank you for listening to the Shepheard-Walwyn podcast. To explore these ideas further, be sure to visit our website www.shepheardwalwyn.com and join our mailing list for news and special offers. Check out our authors and buy the books to learn more, and you can also find us on social media. Links are also on the website. And if you like the podcast, please head over to iTunes or Spotify to give us a review. It's surprisingly helpful in getting the ideas out there. So until next time, keep reading